Our 9 o'clock session is for new owners to kind of go ahead and give them a background on Tamaron, the history of the property, and then also allow for any questions that anyone might have. We have a gentleman here I don't recognize. I assume you're a new owner?
Yeah, hi, everybody. Chuck Porter from Philadelphia when I purchased in early 21, but since we've moved to Sarasota, Florida, and I'm down in Pinecone 836. My wife Kate couldn't make it today, but really excited to finally be here after the 1.5-year remodel. But looking forward to learning more, and yeah, I'm going to be here probably half the year.
Great. Well, welcome. I should have introduced myself and everybody first. My name's Rick Hughes. I'm the board president right now. We also have President Greg Collins, our vice president, John Niebling, our secretary, Jerry Q2, board member, Kathy Puglis, board member, Lisa Oliger, our business manager, Paige Coleman, our assistant general manager, Gary Brisby, our owner relations. And also in the room, we have Mark Beliza, our landscape committee chairman, Scott Gillen, past president for several years, and Andy Loudermilk, candidate running for the board this time. And then online, I see we have a couple of people, Ben and Mandy. I'm assuming Mandy is Mandy McGill. I know she's the new owner. And the other person, James Dean in the lodge, are you a new owner?
They'll have fun being themselves.
This is 326.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, we'll.
That's James Manzanares.
Okay. So kind of give you a history of the property. Around 1971, 72, there were a pair of brothers, the Wadsworths, that came. They were developers. And what they wanted to do was develop 2 properties, one in Colorado, one in Florida. So the brother named Stan they came in, they bought the land here, they saw the property. I understand they were here roughly a week, left owning the property. And they developed the building we're in, the lodge, and then also Pinecone originally. Then a few years later, they constructed Gamble Oak, and then it was about 10 years later that High Point was developed up there. And now originally there were approximately 392, 34 units. Many of them have been combined now. So now we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 326 contiguous units. And roughly 286 owners, something around there.
No, we're around 315.
Oh, okay. So the original format for ownership here was it was an investment property. You bought your unit, you were only allowed to occupy it yourself for 30 days out of the year. The rest of the time it had to be available as a rental. And it was a very successful convention property. Over the years, it went to the convention business fell off. They did some partnerships with, I know Sheraton, and did they also do Hilton? And Hilton. And those lasted short periods. then eventually did an agreement with Purgatory, partnered with them, and then that subsequently fell apart. Then roughly 15 years ago, Carlton's came in around 2002. Around 2002, Rick and Andrea Carlton came in and they purchased approximately 600 acres and began developing the Glacier Club. And they own everything surrounding us. All we own is the property that our buildings sit on. And then roughly 10 feet out from there, Glacier owns everything else. But we have a very good working relationship with Glacier now. There's some utilities we have some contracts with. Water and sewer is a major one. And then we also have rights to the underground access lines where we run our fiber optic cables for our internet and so a few other utilities, phone lines. So that kind of brings us to where we're at now. We feel like we're a very thriving community. We have a substantial amount of money in the bank that is keeping us very healthy financially. And that's been due to some very good leadership that we've had in the past, as far as boards and board presidents. And they have got us in a very good financial position. And the management group that we have in place now have done an excellent job. And we feel like we're in a very good position right now going forward. So.
Quick question here.
Sure.
Does Tamron own the Valley Golf Course, or is that Glacier as well? They own that?
That Glacier owns that. We approximately 5 years ago, and I kind of skipped over that. There was, they say, an issue with the swimming pool. We used to have a swimming pool that was roughly on the second floor, first floor, but it was elevated. And they said there were some structural issues, so they closed it down. And we went through a lot of negotiations, and ultimately what we came out with was an agreement where they owned that end of the building, but we had a long-term lease on the pool. So we gave up our lease and they constructed all the new facilities that are down there, which is everything south of basically the front desk. And they constructed all that. We also secured a long-term agreement where we would have access to those facilities as Taco owners. And so I believe it's roughly 30 years. We have this agreement, and so we now have access to the golf course as owners. And they do sell memberships to the outside for a price. And I think it's a little bit higher than what we have available to us.
I might just mention, yeah, the whole south end of this was a very much deteriorating part of the building. It was the part that they used for the restaurant, the Wadsworth meeting rooms, and there was the pool, and we Tamron have really a 50-year lease on a pool, but we also agreed to pay the maintenance on the pool. And as the structural issues were discovered, it turned out that the price tag on getting that back up to a standard was probably going to be about minimally $500,000. If I'm wrong, tell me. But it could have been even worse. It seemed like a a good idea to release, release Glacier from that lease with the commitment on their part to build these new facilities, which are much more attuned to the current use of the property, both their use and ours.
Sounds like a great decision. I'm just curious, what year did you say that long-term lease started?
2017.
2017, okay.
But if anybody is interested in seeing what the property used to look like a long time ago, the property was featured in the movie Avalanche. So it was filmed right here.
Yeah,
That-
it's,
That did win Best Picture. didn't it?
Right.
Avalanche is one of the worst movies you'll ever see. But for Tamaron owners, it's a great movie because you get to see, I mean, this really was an outstanding facility when it was first constructed. And, you know, you could see a lot of the stuff there. I mean, if you, as an owner here, knowing the terrain and everything, you know that what is depicted in the movie is physically impossible. But for us to see the facilities is
Fun.
great. Some of the outlying clusters used to all be connected with walkways. And I've got one neighbor that says he hated it at 11 o'clock at night. You'd hear somebody pulling their suitcase along the boards. And he said he equated them to army barracks.
You mind if I want to mention one other?
Anybody jump in if you have something.
I'd like to clarify just a little bit on, I believe we have, Gary, tell me if I'm wrong, I think we have currently 378 units.
Well, 380 units, but 2 are owned by Taco
Okay,
that we use as rentals.
right. And the reason I bring this up is that we have 378 votes in the association. And that's important. I mean, what's happening tomorrow, we're having the election for the board, and an owner that owns 3 units gets 3 votes. But he also has 3 assessments. So even if you combine units into, you take 3 contiguous units and buy all 3 of them and make it your living quarters, that's fine. But
Still have 3.
because we have a basis of financial operation that is pretty much dependent on those quarterly assessments that we also happily write checks for or Venmo it or whatever every quarter.
And it was also the way they were originally platted too with the county. So that figures into it too.
Chuck, if you're looking, so that when they're talking about Valley Golf Course and the memberships, that's not handled through us, that's handled through.
No, I
Glacier.
understand. I'm already I'm a social member here, so golfed 1 time so far and already in love. I'm not a golfer. But, yeah, my wife is just bought new clubs after golf 1 day. So.
Okay, we have a lot of ladies in Pineville that attempt to play. I'm being, I say that for myself.
Thank you.
It really is a great place to play. Gary gets frustrated quite a bit. I was telling Gary, just look up around. It's really, one of his favorite sayings, it's really not that bad. So I said, Gary, just look up around. It's really not that bad.
Still frustrated.
So. Do you have any other questions? Anything else you're curious about? The water, water is a big issue in Colorado. With Scott and Jerry and Greg, we just signed this year a long-term agreement with Glacier. And we have first rights to a substantial amount of water. And we greatly reduced our payment to Glacier. So these guys did an outstanding job and they're to be commended all the time.
Let me help understand history. We were relying on Glacier for internet, TV, telephone. It sucked. TV was horrible. Water still is less than perfect. But over the course of what, I guess the last 4 years, 5 years, we renegotiated all those contracts. We got a separate provider of TV now, obviously, we have a separate. We did have to use an easement to run fiber on Glacier property. Started really 2013.
Yeah.
Does anybody online have any questions?
Thanks for asking. This is Claudia Sturgis. I got confused about when this meeting was. I thought it was this evening. I'm brand new, been here since May. Questions? No, except for that I've heard conflicting reports about that sometimes renters can have dogs, and I was concerned about that because I'm going to be renting out, and I understand that you have to allow service dogs. But I heard this summer there were a bunch of young people here renting and they all had dogs, and just gossip stuff, you know? And yeah, is the service dog policy, I'm going to be renting with Heather, and I called her and left a message. But yeah, so is this not true that dogs get in here even though they're not service dogs from renters? I understand owners have dogs. I have a puppy, that's why. So anyway, was that just gossip that there were a bunch of renters with dogs here this summer?
Our rules are that only owners are allowed to have, direct owners
Correct,
are allowed to have pets.
correct.
Technically, if you have children and they bring pets, technically those are not allowed.
Correct.
It's the direct owner. Sometimes renters do bring them. They don't tell us, you know, we don't go out and search cars.
Right,
We don't pay for security to go
No.
around.
yeah,
Be a big brother, looking, just sending people out looking for violations. We do
Right.
ask when they check in. But there are people who sneak them in.
right,
As far as service animals, under Colorado law, we cannot refuse.
yes,
Um,
I understand. Yeah, same in Arizona. I'm from Arizona and I'm gonna be living here in summer and renting out in winter. And, but you don't consciously turn your backs on dogs and let them. I was told that, that Tamron let people rent this summer who had dogs, some group of young people or something. And you turned your back on that regulation.
No.
No, so if somebody, tells you that, oh, there's a renter next door with a dog, you'll look into it.
we currently right now have an owner with a fine.
Interesting. How did that owner, being an owner, how did that come about, the fine? Was it, they did it on purpose, or was it a renter they didn't know about having a dog there?
We don't know whether the owner knew or not. The owner
Uh-huh.
did let us know that there was even a renter in his unit.
The owner
But-
did not let you know?
No,
Oh,
and
Uh-huh.
we found out, and it's, it becomes a situation where everybody has to hold everybody else accountable.
Uh-huh.
We don't have the power to go out,
yeah,
but if somebody reports something to us, then we act on it.
cool. My only concern is I love dogs, of course, but what
Uh.
happens, and I was told by this gossip that, oh, if the renters break something, or if they have a dog in there and it throws up, they'll fix it. Well, in reality, what happens if a big dog pees on carpet, it's in the pad, it doesn't go away. And another dog, like my little small dog, will come in and pee where another dog's peed. So when dogs pee on carpet, it does go into the pad and you can't get it back up unless it's a tiny little thing you get real quick. And I just thought that was a kind of not a good business attitude to think, oh, it's okay if they pee or throw up, they'll just clean your carpet. Well, that's not the end of it. I've had dogs for a long time, and I've had big dogs, and I've had to pull up carpet where I would buy a house and see what the pad looks like, and it's disgusting. Just because you clean the carpet doesn't mean it goes out of the pad. So that was my only concern, because I thought, that was great that only owners could have dogs. And then when I heard this gossip that renters are bringing dogs in and it's okay, they'll clean it, don't worry. And I was like, and that's why I called Heather. I was like, oh no, because Heather promised me that, renters can't have dogs. And I totally get the service thing. We have that in Arizona too. I think most states probably have that by now. That's really my only question. I love it here. Everything's going well. Thank you. And I'll be face to face this evening. I'll meet you this evening.
Well, good. We welcome everybody to come this evening.
Thanks.
And you.
Hey,
How many
Rick, this is
people-
Jim Rogers.
How many people are in the room?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 owners in the room.
And 6 online. Cool.
Mhm.
So, and the other thing is, when the people in the room talk, I couldn't really hear them. That'd be nice if we could hear their questions. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, continuing that conversation, renters and dogs. I do know down here on the south end of Pinecone, I think at least one time this summer, we knew that we had a renter that had a dog. And at one point we had to run her off the golf course while golfers were on the course. And, just kind of a general disregard of the fact that there were golfers standing on the tee waiting to hit. The dog was not on a leash. And then I think the next day they went on a train ride and left the dog inside the unit all day. And according to the neighbors nearest there, said the dog wouldn't quit barking. So my question is just really procedural. As a matter of procedure, when you're renting a unit, do you all stress that pets are not allowed? And is there an imposition perhaps of a fine? Or if they do sneak a pet in, that their rental will be terminated and they'll be, talked to about being sent home? I mean, anything along those lines.
Yeah, and as I stated a couple minutes ago, we do currently have an owner that has been assessed a fine because he had a renter and he didn't let us know of the renter, and the renter did bring a dog. Typically what we do is if it's a first time that we know of with an owner, we'll send them a notice that they've got a renter on their property in their unit that has a dog. And then if it continues to be an issue with that particular owner, then we start issuing fines. The rental program is not a program of Tamarron. If anybody rents their unit, that is solely their choice. It's not a function of Tamarron. We do have a working agreement with Heather where she has access to laundry facilities, and we also somewhat partner with her, but she is actually not affiliated with Tamarron. And there's VRBO, Vacasa, others, Purgatory. An owner can use anybody they want. They can
They could do it privately too.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
do it. However, however they want to do it, but it is the owner's responsibility if a dog shows up on property that is not a service animal. I mean, as far as what we can do, we can ask if they have any pets, and we do. If the person says they're a service animal, then at that point, all we can do is ask them what service that animal performs.
You can ask for the certificate. Heather, I hope Heather asked for the certificate.
That's for emotional support dog. has a certificate.
Oh, there's two different things. Okay,
Have to allow
okay. So the service dog people don't really have certificates they carry around, huh?
They, I think they're,
Service dogs are not-
okay,
But service dogs and emotional support animals have to follow the rules. They have to be on a leash, they have to be, and they can't be left in their unit all day barking. You don't
Yeah.
leave your service animal while you're on the train. You need your service animal when you're on the train.
Well,
So
and imagine wanting to play golf here. I'm a golfer, I was, and I can't imagine wanting to tee off and there's a dog off leash running around. For the green fees here, I would be so furious as a golfer. Oh my goodness, to think of a dog off leash running around when you're playing on this beautiful course that I want to rent out to golfers.
if,
Crazy.
if we, pursued that further and called the county sheriff, it's provided in our documents that if we called the police, the sheriff, the owner's automatically assessed a $500 fine.
Do you want to say anything about, in general, our rules and regulations for new owners?
I'll do that in a second. Andy had a question.
My son and daughter-in-law have a service dog. And to get on an airplane, it is very difficult. You have to show that that is a service animal. You have documentation that it's a service animal. You can't just say it's a service animal. So if Heather is asking if they're a service animal, she should ask for some kind of.
Well, Colorado law restricts us
So
pretty.
you can say it's a service animal, and not have to show any type of documentation.
We've run across that.
Because I know you have.
Yeah.
We went through that.
Yeah.
Why you have to have, it's got a lot worse. I mean, not a lot worse, but a lot more detail involved.
Yeah.
Making the service.
My name is Norman Gerald. I'm sorry, I got your late, so I don't know what I missed in the meeting. But I can tell you, honestly, you can buy a service vest online. And there are a lot of people that do lie about a service animal. I've worked in that area before and I've seen it happen many, many times. And so, yeah, I do agree. I think that there should, but if it's against the law, I mean, I can't imagine, but I would hope that anybody who really has a service animal would be able to provide documentation. But anyway, I just want to mention one thing about animals too. I have to use, well, I don't have to, but I sometimes use the laundry facilities.
Mhm.
And I know there's a sign that says don't wash dog beds, but it's a very itty bitty sign. And even if people don't wash their dog bedding, people have hair all over their clothes or on their sheets. And when you use those facilities, those wash machines are filthy. If you pull back the gasket on the wash machine, it's full of hair. And so when I use them, I take a bottle of water and paper towels with me to clean out the machine before I put my clothes in. So I don't know if there's any kind of maintenance that's done on those laundry facilities, but the gasket, when you pull it back, I have found crayons in there, money, acorns, almonds. You find all kinds of things in those gaskets. And so it just looks like they're never really cleaned or maintained.
we contract that service out for the machines. That'd be something we could check into. But yeah, similar to the soft drink machines, they're contracted out. We don't actually own
Okay,
the machines.
I just wanted to mention the condition.
And that's, yeah, and that's good information, because people like us in the outlying clusters don't see that. And so that's good information. As far as rules and regulations, we have basically 3 sets of governing documents for an HOA in the state of Colorado. We have our DCCRs, declarations, conditions and covenants, restrictions. And then what's the second one? I'm drawing a blank right now. Bylaws, and then our rules and restrictions. The DCCRs are basically set by the state of Colorado. And that talks about how we're going to operate. Or what we have to do. Our bylaws say how we're going to do it. And then our rules and regulations are what the ownership has told the board over time, the rules that they would like enforced on property. And so all those documents are on the website. If you go to TamarronHOA.com, all those are listed. And within our rules and regulations, we also do have a code of conduct. And, you know, we expect everybody to abide by a certain standard of conduct while on property, whether they're an owner, guest, service person, staff member, whatever. And we enforce those. We have owners who are paying fines for not being nice to other people. So, you know, we do enforce the rules. A lot of times you won't hear about it because we're not going to talk about it. If we assess you a fine, we're not going to tell Scott about it, you know. So, you know, to Claudia's comment, yeah, stuff does happen and we do address things. Are we Johnny on the spot? No, not all the time. Sometimes we are, you know, but a lot of that comes from information from other owners, and then we address them. And, you know, we take into consideration circumstances and stuff like that, but there are owners who receive fines. Yes.
It determines the fine. If y'all decide that somebody's gonna be fined.
It's in the documents,
What's in
the amount, yeah. They're specifically spelled out. There's certain amounts for a first offense, second offense doubles. And then in the documents, it says after that, the board has discretion.
Rick, if I could comment on the documents a little bit for the new owners, either online or in the room. There is a hierarchy within homeowner associations in the state of Colorado. The statute that governs homeowners in Colorado is called, shorthand, it's called Kiowa. It's the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, Kiowa. And it really is it came in about early 90s. Interestingly enough, we were an HOA before it was adopted by the Colorado legislature. So there are some exemptions for HOAs that existed prior to Kiowa, but it's minor. And everything that happened since then, we are governed by that. So nothing in our CCRs, nothing in our bylaws, nothing in any policy that we pass as a board can be in violation of Kiowa. So that's how it goes. Kiowa, DCCRs, bylaws, policies. That's the hierarchy of documentation.
In, well, is it roughly 15 years ago, our our then current board decided to adopt and make changes and become fully compliant with Kiowa. 2009. So, you know, we, as a group, we're proactive in wanting to be in line with current law statutes.
And I might say for the new owners also that concerning any kind of legislation to which we must adhere, any legal questions that come up, we are advised by a local law firm that specializes in HOA law. And we always consult them whenever there's a question of how this should be phrased and do we need to act. Joe and I,
Good recent example of that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the
Go.
recent law that was just passed
fast.
that affects the collection of assessments of over past due assessments.
Overdue assessment.
It limits the amount of interest we can charge, and it limits, it states with tighter restrictions, the notice requirements before we can take legal action.
Yes.
That went into effect this month. We're complying with that. But that's something we're gonna need to address in terms of, at this board meeting, in terms of
Right.
modifying the rule, the policy and procedure that affects that.
We might keep in mind, I'll just say, Joe makes a really good point. Now, any changes in the documents, there's a procedure for every change, and sometimes it requires owner vote, sometimes just notification to the owners, and the board can make that change. But I would say on a statute passed by the state of the legislature of Colorado, that is not put up to a vote. You know, we have to institute that. So we will make changes according to the law, to comply with the law. Anything outside the law that needs to be changed or we feel needs to be changed, that will follow the process depending on whether it's a part of the DCRs.
Or if the law gives you latitude.
Right.
Yeah.
But there are very specific procedures for changing anything that affects owners.
So, let me just say one more word about that, if I may. Kiowa is a huge sprawling document, covers all kinds of things. And in it says there are things that associations can do. It says there are things that associations cannot do. And also what is not covered specifically in Kiowa and is told that either we or they can do. Then the HOA has discretion and can set their own rules, policies, or whatever, as long as it is not in conflict with anything that is mandated by Kiowa.
Yeah,
My question is about around whether there's a specific procedure for when they're updated. Obviously, if a law change like this, do you go in immediately and change that? Or is it always with an event like that? Or is there a set time frame? You know, you look at it every 3 years and, you know, this dog thing could be a good example. You know, maybe we want to up the fines on it. Are the rules and regulations updated just purely when circumstance happen, or is there a set procedure for when they're reviewed and updated?
For rules and regulations,
Yeah.
it's easy to do because all it takes is a board action.
There's not a-
To change the declarations.
That's a big deal.
Or the bylaws. The bylaws only takes a board action as long as the vote is within limits. The DCCRs, that takes more effort and a vote of the owners. So we don't do that at the drop of a hat. We've actually got something that's recently come up regarding the laws that have changed for loans. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have changed their rules, which 3 years ago, we changed the DCRs to comply with, and now they've changed their rules. So there's something that we probably need to address. But what we try to do in those situations is catch up anything that we need to do. And our lawyer is she's been pretty adamant about that. Whenever you do one of these, make sure you go back and look at some other things.
Because it's a
changes to Kiowa that she's got to update now.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
But there is no 5-year rule or something like that. They're living document, so to speak.
The last time we changed the DCCR was 3 years ago, 2019. So we're probably getting to the point where we need to do it anyway.
Thank you.
Make a change on that? Does it actually change the document, or is it just like an amendment to the document?
It can either be a complete rewrite of the document, which we've done in the past, but more likely it's an amendment.
It's recorded.
And again, everything is posted on the website, you know, all the documents, financial statements, you know, any question that you might have could, if you want to take the time, find the answer there. But you can also always speak to any board member, call Gary, you know, and if he can't answer it, he'll get with us and we can get back with you. So. Anybody else? Okay, nobody else has any?
Where
Well-
are you guys? Are you on you have the view I have. I'm on that same side with those two houses going up. Are you on the fourth floor? Where is this?
First floor. First floor.
You're on the first floor.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're in what used to be 115. It's a conference room that we have
cool.
constructed here
Nice.
into the
Nice.
building.
Yeah, nice view to look at when zooming, better than a wall.
Adjacent to the trash.
Adjacent to the. Yeah, we need
Don't say
that.
that.
So, okay, well then, we'll go ahead and we'll conclude this meeting and take about a 17-minute break or so. And then we'll start the regularly scheduled board meeting at 10 o'clock.
Thanks to the new owners who came.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank
Come
you.
back.
Thank you.
Come to the owner's reception. Yes. Please.
What time is that tonight?
6 o'clock
Six-
tonight.
6 o'clock. owner's
6 o'clock for the
Tell
owner's
your
reception.
friends.